Hello, and welcome to the Digital Learning Day online conference brought to you by Ohio EdTechs. I am Elizabeth Curtis, and I am with WOSU Classroom. And today I will be the facilitator for this session. And I will basically make sure that any questions you have in the chat are answered by our presenter. Speaking of chat, please make sure that you are signed into your Google account so that you can participate in today's conversation if you have any questions. Also, in the chat box, please take a moment to let us know what school district you're with and how many people are watching with you. So again, if you get a chance, please go ahead and let us know which school district you're with and how many people are watching along with you. If you have any technical difficulties today, you can sign on to ohioedtechs.org, and there will be a phone number and or email address that you can use, and someone will be ready and willing to help you. Also, if you would like a certificate of attendance for this session, today's session, please make sure you write down the code that's going to be given sometime during this session. Input this code in all caps into the form provided on the digital learning page at ohioedtechs.org, and a certificate of attendance will be sent out to you. Also, the links to today's presentations, they will all be posted on the digital learning page at ohioedtechs.org. So now I'm going to introduce our presenter for this session. It is Emily, and she will be sharing INFOhio and Inquiry Team Up for HyperDoc Slam Dunk. So Emily, are you all set?
I think I am ready to go.
All right, it's all yours. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
So good afternoon to everyone. My name is Emily Rosmus, and I'm an INFOhio instructional specialist at INFOhio. We are here today to talk about INFOhio and Inquiry and how they can team up for a HyperDoc slam dunk. My colleague Erica presented earlier today, and she shared with you who Info and what INFOhio are. We provide quality digital content and tools to help teachers and students to use those tools and resources. They are available at no cost, and we do what we do to help transform student learning here in Ohio. So we're going to talk today about how our resources and tools can be used to really improve student learning. So we're going to start off talking about inquiry today, and there are a lot of different models to choose from when you're talking about inquiry. In fact, if you were to do a Google search right now and choose images, you would find quite a variety of models. But really the basic foundation for inquiry is the same. Students move through a process which is very much cyclical in nature, as you can see from these models that I have up here. But in short, inquiry is learning that requires information exploration and investigation, and it ultimately leads to other learning. So as you can see from the cycle in these images, you start out asking a question, but in the end, you ultimately move on to asking other questions. So INFOhio has quite a bit of inquiry as a foundation in the tools that we have created to help both educators and students use the digital content that we provide. One of these tools is called Go, Ask, Act, Achieve, and it's a tool for students in grades 4 through 9. It has 3 modules that lead the learner through a simplified inquiry process. So they start off asking a question, they find answers using valid information, and then they organize what was learned using collaboration and technology. Now we're going to talk more about this tool later on in the presentation when we really start to talk about how you can use INFOhio to build inquiry through HyperDocs. Another great tool that we have created at INFOhio to help students and teachers work through the inquiry process and to use our resources is Research for Success. This is a resource that's really for upper high school students and even first and second year college students. And the inquiry process is much more defined and delineated in this, but the idea is the same. They're going to start off asking a question or having a problem. They're going to use valid information and learn about how to find the best and most valid information to solve their problem. Then they organize that information and create a product that offers new or unexplored answers that they've synthesized from the information that they researched. Now, the ultimate product for research for success is a research paper, but there are definitely a lot of pieces within this tool that you can use and pull out to lead students through the inquiry process. And again, we'll talk more about R4S as we go through. One other example of where INFOhio has that foundation of inquiry is in the Blizzard bags that we've created. This is the 9 through 12. We also have one that's K through 1. We have it's K through 2. We have a 3 through 5 and a 6 through 8. Each of these uses the questioning, locating information, evaluating information, applying information, sharing information, and then reflecting as the basis for the lessons that are in these Blizzard bags. We're going to talk more about what INFOhio calls the dimensions of inquiry here in a couple more slides. So you might be thinking right now, how do you even begin to develop your own inquiry-based projects? How can you integrate the really good quality digital content that's available on INFOhio and those processes that are part of the resources and tools I just shared with you, and then pull that into interactive and collaborative learning approaches? And please make note, there is the code for this session. One thing I'm going to point out to you before we go any further and I answer that question is to check out 2 really great blog posts that are the first 2 in a series on inquiry and how you can teach inquiry within your learning in your classrooms using INFOhio's tools. Teach with INFOhio is our blog. The first blog post is INFOhio and inquiry, and it really talks about how inquiry from INFOhio focuses on cognitive skills, and it helps the teachers that are using this to really identify the clear connections that can be made to the instructional standards as they design those learning opportunities for students. So we call our foundation of inquiry the dimensions of inquiry. That's questioning, which you'll see is the next blog post that's listed there, locating information, evaluating information, applying it, sharing the knowledge, and then reflecting on the learning. The second post that is there really offers some great tips about how to help students develop their essential questions by using images and sounds found within INFOhio's digital content. So we're going to look at that more closely here, but you can also watch for more posts to come out in this blog series. So INFOhio has created 2 HyperDocs. So what is a HyperDoc? A HyperDoc really encourages critical thinking. It encourages problem solving and questioning. And it does this in a collaborative and differentiated approach. That's what a HyperDoc is. The 2 that were created by INFOhio, this first one is a biology HyperDoc. It is for high school biology. It is aligned with the high school biology standards, but also reading and technology standards. And it leads students through the inquiry process to answer an essential question about cells and their relationship between their structure and function. So you can see that there's both a lesson plan that's actually the HyperDoc that's delivered to students, and then there is a teacher's guide as well with additional tips on how to facilitate this. The second one that we created is for 6th graders, social science, social studies. It is on maps. Again, it uses reading standards and the technology standards, and it pulls in interactive web tools and collaboration so that students can explore maps and how maps help us understand the world around us. So INFOhio, of course, did not come up with the idea of a HyperDoc, and many of you may be familiar with a HyperDoc, which is actually a Google part of the Google approach to teaching and learning. A HyperDoc uses a variety of web tools and personalized instruction, which is really important, as a creation tool, and it's basically just a Google Doc, which replaces a flat or static worksheet that you normally see. These tools really amp up one-to-one learning, and it uses technology to redefine a student experience. They are student-driven, they're inquiry-based, and they really result in some authentic learning that with products that can be shared. You can see here that there is a website, and there are many models that are available on that website. The one that we're going to talk about is the Engage, Explore, Explain, Apply, so on and so forth model. And it is a template that is available at the website. You can also get the book, and I do recommend the book as well. There are lots of great suggestions for resources, suggestions for ways to approach HyperDocs. So that's a great resource to have as well. So let's talk about the real power of HyperDocs. As I said before, INFOhio is very invested in transforming student learning in Ohio. And the great thing about HyperDocs is that these are the outcomes that you will get when you create these interactive lessons for students. You know, project-based learning really relies on the inclusion of intellectual change, accomplishment, authenticity, collaboration, project management, and reflection. And HyperDocs can learn to project-based learning if you use the right tools and resources. So HyperDocs are a great place to start if you're starting to think about, how do I really engage and connect my students? How do I lead to authentic outcomes? How do I blend the learning in my classroom? So this is one way that you can begin to move toward those outcomes. If you're talking about transformative instruction, this is a great model to look at, the SAMR, which is substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. And that really is about how you use and integrate technology in your classroom. I really like this model, this visual, when we talk about how to integrate technology, because it defines the levels of effective transformational instruction. So when educators build in the possibility of new creations and tasks, that means that the learning has been transformed and it is meaningful. So you're always aiming down here for the modification, for the redefinition. It's okay to start up here though with substitution and augmentation, just to get your feet wet, as supported by this visual. So how can you use the dynamic team of INFOhio's really great quality digital content that's available at no cost again, and the transformative power of HyperDocs to boost student learning for a slam dunk outcome? So here are some examples of how you could build a lesson that will engage students at all levels. We're going to use, again, this standard Engage, Explore, Explain, Apply, Share, Reflect, and Extend HyperDoc model. And I'm going to give you some suggestions of how you can pull in INFOhio's content to fit each of these steps. So the first step is Engage. Sorry, I had a dry throat. Starting off with a visual is a really great way to engage students, and it captures their attention. It's really easy to search for visuals or audio in the databases, INFOhio's databases, once you've read the questioning blog that I told you about earlier. And you can see that there is a URL, a shortened URL down there. You can use an advanced search in Academic Search Premier to find visuals like this one. Students can then look at this visual, they can brainstorm, they can develop questions that are going to help them lead to essential questions that are going to be answered through the process. So this is one way that you can really engage students. If you think back about the HyperDocs that INFOhio has created, both of the engage steps start off with using visuals as ways to help students question, which is that first step in inquiry. The next step is exploring. So you want your students, as they're working through solving this problem that the HyperDoc lesson is setting up, you want them to be able to explore. And when you let students explore, it's a very powerful way for them to build up their knowledge and their understanding of a topic. So I recommend I Wonder as a great way to put students out in a kind of a controlled area. These are all websites and resources that have been created and collected by INFOhio, and they are presented in an inquiry fashion, starting off with that questioning techniques that students may want to learn more about. So this would be a great way to get students exploring. iWonder has resources best for students grades 3 through 9. So if you have, if you're working on a HyperDoc lesson and you want them to explore, students in younger grades can really get on iWonder and find more. Down in this bottom right-hand corner, though, you will see iSearch. And iSearch is recommended for students grades 4 and up. We didn't talk too much, we're not going to talk too much about iSearch in this presentation, but I do recommend that you watch my colleague's presentation that she did this morning, which was 2 steps to stepping up student learning, because she talks a lot about the kind of quality information that you can find in iSearch and that students can use as part of their exploration. So explaining is the next step in this lesson. You engage your students to begin with, then you let them explore. Now it's time for you to really give them kind of the meat of what you want them to know about whatever that essential question is. Now, as 21st century educators, we know that sit and get is not the ideal instructional method. It really only leads to a superficial understanding of a topic. It's important to kind of research various ways to explain concepts and consider video as one way that is pretty effective when it comes to delivering content for students to analyze and apply. One of the resources we have at INFOhio is the INFOhio Digital Video Collection. This is a collection of almost 3,000 educational videos, including Bill Nye's, you can see here. So this is on the phases of matter. What's really great about the digital video collection, as opposed to, let's say, perhaps YouTube, which has a great deal of educational content as well. What's really great is the fact that, first of all, there are teacher guides with almost all of these. So it makes it really easy for you to pull out some ideas and some tips to use in your own lesson. The other great thing is that you don't have to download or view or link to the entire video. If there's only part of what is included in that video that you actually want your students to watch, then you just pull that part out and send that link or attach that link into your actual HyperDoc. So you can see this one also has Spanish included as well. So make sure you check out the digital video collection. It is searchable, and I guarantee you're bound to find something that you're going to be able to use in your HyperDoc lesson. When you move into the apply section, students apply what they have learned. And when you use technology to help students apply what they've learned, what knowledge they've pulled in, it really ultimately leads to student creation. Creation takes that learning, takes that application up to a higher level. That requires higher level thinking. It's not just a restating of knowledge, it's creating something new from that knowledge. So once again, I'm going to say we talked about Go, Ask, Act, Achieve earlier, and I'm going to recommend this as a really good place on INFOhio's resources to go and check out the Achieve module, and you will find several tech tools featured there that really promote students as creators. It's important when you introduce a new tech tool, however, to remember that modeling is the best thing to do for students. So model it for them, let them see you use it, and then allow them some time to practice. Our students are pretty intuitive when it comes to technology tools, but it really makes it much more powerful when their teacher is using it and showing them how to use it as well. So check these out. So for example, here's Easily and Buncee that are 2 different creation tools that students could use to apply their learning. When it comes to sharing, I have to say, I taught formerly in a Google School, this is one of the best ways to really share and collaborate when it comes to students. And sharing is the place where collaboration can be integrated easily. Shared Google Docs, Google Forms, both of those are ways that students can show others what they've created and also work with others to create. Of course, there's other platforms out there and educational tools as well, such as Padlet and Buncee, but Google is a great tool to start with to get students experimenting and figuring out how to talk with each other and problem solve together, which is, again, something that's really an important part of those HyperDoc lessons that can be created. Reflection is the next step in that HyperDoc lesson. And without reflection, learning from the experience is just not possible. So this, to me, in some ways, is one of the most important pieces and parts of that HyperDoc lesson, or any type of inquiry-based learning. Students really have to think about what they learned, how they learned it, what worked, what could have been better. It's an individual task as well as a shared process. This is an example from Research for Success, which again is one of our inquiry-based research tools. And the very last module, which is called Making the Grade, is all about reflection. It has lots of different suggestions and ideas of how you can help your students be better reflectors as well. So don't skip this step. I think sometimes, all too often in a busy day, this tends to be what we think we can do without. And I would contend that this is a pretty important piece of learning from experience. Finally, there's extending. And this is really the place where students can move beyond their learning that they've just done, and they take the new knowledge, they take the new skills, and they create even more. They can synthesize, they can evaluate. Go, Ask, Act, Achieve, again, the final module, the Achieve module, has some really good tools that can help students extend their learning. So you see Seesaw here, SurveyMonkey, Poll Everywhere. So wouldn't it be great is after the students have worked through that digital, that HyperDoc, and they've worked through that whole inquiry process, that now they reach out to others and try to figure out how their learning interacts and works with the other people around them. So extension is another key part of learning and inquiry. Now, just a few supporting tools to help you out. I just gave you a few ideas of what kind of information, what kind of resources you can pull from INFOhio to help build your HyperDoc lesson. However, if you go to our Educator Tools, which is pretty much, it's kind of a content management system, and we have all of our resources. So the databases are listed here, databases from EBSCO, Worldbook Kids, BookFlix is here. All the really great content can be searched here and pulled up. The content can't, but the resources can, pardon me. But you can also search the support materials that go along with these, as well as ideas for best practices, ideas for lesson plans. You can search by typing in the search box. You can do a wide browse by clicking on one of the subjects. Or you can use the limiters that are on the left-hand side to really narrow down your search. What's great about this is that the inquiry, dimensions of inquiry are built right into those limiters. So let's say you know that you want to engage students, and you want to use that questioning as part of a way to engage your students in the first part of your lesson. You can narrow it down. You can use the subject level and grade level here and narrow it that way. You can think about what kind of instructional trends are you thinking about, close reading, and then you use that dimension of inquiry. So by using these limiters, you can really narrow down and find different resources and different tools within the INFOhio website that are going to help you build your HyperDoc lesson. So just as a reminder, this is one way to really start building your HyperDoc lessons. I hope that you will let us know if you experiment with this and try out the HyperDoc lesson format to encourage inquiry, to develop critical thinking within your students. If you come up with something you really like, share it with us. We would love to see it. And we encourage you to use that hashtag INFOhioWorks. Post it to social media. We'd love to see that when people are doing great things with our resources. So that is all I have today. Thanks a lot. I hope you get a lot out of this. And if not,
Ohio EdTech Digital Learning Day online conference. Thank you so much. We definitely did. There are no questions in the chat, so this concludes our session for today. Thanks again, Emily.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.